Hey folks, just thought I'd record a short video this afternoon because it's quite a nice day at the flying field compared to what we've had lately, and I just thought I'd share my thoughts on this plane. This is a Focke-Wulf 190 made by Warbird Replicas. It's a small UK-based manufacturer run by a guy called Richard Wills. It's my first Balsa World War II Warbird type build, and Richard deliberately designed this plane to be easy for beginners, and honestly I think he's knocked it out of the park. And I'll just quickly go around the plane and say why. Firstly, the fuselage itself. Let me move the plane around a little here. So the main fuselage structure, you see at the sides here, these sides, it's basically a box. There's a little bit of curved balsa goes on some formers on the top, but the flat side of the box runs all the way forward into this cutout where the exhausts are on the full size. So basically you build a really simple box and you pull the tail, the two side pieces together at the back in a V shape to make that narrowing shape down to the rear. And it all jigs together and goes together square without you really having to think about it. The tailplane and the rudder are solid balsa that you just glue on. The wings are made out of foam. They're sort of, I guess, hot wire cut cores. They're skinned in some sort of wooden veneer, and you cut out the ailerons, glue them together in the center, but it's pretty straightforward. And if you've never done it before, the instructions, there's no instructions with the kit, but there's a very detailed build thread on the RCM&E forums, which I followed, and honestly that was good enough. And now a guy called Ron Gray, who's a much better builder than I am, Ron has built one of these, and he's actually detailed the complete build in a sort of series of YouTube videos, and I'll put a link at the end of this to those so you could follow it and have a look at those if you wanted. Then the front end of the plane, to get this very distinctive shape, this top piece here with the guns in is a plastic moulding. The cowling at the front is a plastic moulding. The spinner I got from Richard with the kit. It's sitting a bit too far forward at the moment, but that's because I'm running these APC props and they're very deep, so you have to put it forward with some washers to clear it. The extra things I've done, there's this sort of fake, there's a sort of cooling fan behind the propeller on the real thing. I 3D printed that, and the pilot is 3D printed. The canopy is again, I guess, a vacuum molding that came with the kit. And the painting and decals, again, I followed Richard's instructions. Believe it or not, this plane is painted with ordinary household emulsion paint, the sort of thing you'd use for your walls or your ceilings. The little match pots you can buy for about £2. What I've used, I think I've got 4 colours. Obviously there's a grey and a green, a pale blue and the yellow. The decals I designed myself in Inkscape based on a real full-size plane flown by a famous pilot called Graff, I think was his surname. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And I printed those out myself and stuck those on, and then a thin coat of semi-matte varnish over the top. And as you can see, it really does look the part. So for a beginner, an incredibly easy kit to build because it was designed that way, and I think Rich has done an outstanding job. The other thing that needs to be easy for beginners is the flight characteristics. And I was nervous to fly this plane because it's much heavier and more powerful than anything I'd flown before. The power system I've got in here, I've got a generic Chinese brushless motor. It's a 4250 size physically. I think it's about an 800 or 900 kV, and I'm flying it on a 4S 2200 battery. It's got plenty of power, so it's pretty fast. It can pull big scale looking loops, and it'll fly for about 6 or 6.5 minutes on 2200 4-cell. But it's surprisingly easy to fly. I thought it would be quite nerve-wracking. It really isn't. It stalls very gently, it slows down very benignly, so you have to fly it like the real thing. It's not something for doing 3D maneuvers. You fly big scale Warbird type maneuvers, but it does those beautifully, and is actually nowhere near as intimidating as I had feared, because I was really nervous for the maiden. The only other thing to say is that, as you can see, it's sitting on its belly in the grass. That's because at the moment it is a hand launch and belly lander, and if you don't want a hand launch, there is another way. I'm going to pause the video and I'll just show you what that is. Okay, this is how I am launching the plane at the moment. There is a takeoff dolly. It's made out of some old scraps of wood I had lying around and some offcuts from the kit and a bit of foam just to stop there being any hard surface that would rub the paint off the model when it's bouncing them down on the trolley when you're taking off. It works really well as long as you've got the back wheel pointing in the right direction so it'll run straight. You just give the plane full throttle, and after a very short roll of maybe 2 seconds, plane just pulls away smoothly and leaves the trolley behind, and then either you get a clubmate to collect it for you, or if you're very brave and there's nobody else around, if you can do it safely, you can go and grab it yourself if you can just keep the plane nice and stable. Let me just drop it in so you can see how it looks. So there we go. So that's the plane sitting in the dolly for takeoff, slightly nose up attitude, almost as it would be with the undercarriage. And the last topic, the undercarriage. This is a belly lander at the moment. Let's flip it up and have a look underneath. So it's a bolt-in wing. You see a single bolt there at the back, drawn on fake landing gear. But actually, Richard will be selling an add-on kit for retracts, which I'm going to add to this plane later on. So it'll gain a bit of weight, but given how smoothly it flies, I'm not too worried about that. And that will allow me to take off and land with retractable undercarriage. The only last thing I'm going to show you quickly, I'll open up the battery hatch and I'll show you how easy it is to get the battery in and out. Okay, so there's a little sliding pin catch at the back. There is my battery, which sits vertically, so it's as far forward as possible up against the bulkhead. I've just got it wedged in position at the moment with some polystyrene so it can't move. So you don't even have to strap it out, just wedge it in position left and right, put the lid back on and you're good to go. And when the flight's done, disconnect and the battery just pulls straight on out. So loads of space. You could run much bigger batteries obviously, and with a 4250 motor and a 2200 4-cell, this plane is balancing at a very, very friendly CG without me needing to put any lead ballast in the nose. So really, really well designed kit. Highly recommended. Now, Richard built a short run of these and I think they're all sold. So the bad news is, if you're watching this and you'd think, hey, I'd like to try one of those, sorry, they're all gone. But there is a sister plane to this one, the other side of World War II. So there is a Hawker Tempest, similarly designed to be user-friendly. It's a little more complex than this because the shape is slightly more complicated. He's just finished a prototype and I've seen it on the forums and it looks absolutely beautiful. So you can't get this exact plane, but something very similar if you wanted one, if you were quick, because the Fokker all sold out pretty quickly. So go on the Model Flying forums if you want to have a look and search for Hawker Tempest and you should find it. Hope you found this interesting. It's a really great plane, beautifully designed, highly recommended if you can either get one already built or maybe get the Tempest.